Hello, my name is Andrew Wachter, and I'm a research associate with the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. NCJFCJ developed and manages the Nevada Center for Juvenile Justice Innovation, Nevada's evidence-based resource center. This training video will focus on developing and sustaining continuous quality improvement initiatives in juvenile justice organizations. This training is based off of NCJFCJ's publication, Continuous Quality Improvement Guide for Juvenile Justice Organizations, which can be found on the NCJJI website. Nevada passed Assembly Bill 472 in an effort to improve outcomes for youth involved in Nevada's juvenile justice system and requires the use of evidence-based programs and practices. However, accountability does not end with merely implementing evidence-based practices. To truly exercise accountability, they need to put the evidence in evidence-based practice by continually demonstrating how their services positively impact youth outcomes and use data to determine where improvements to services can be made. Continuous quality improvement is a process that can help juvenile justice organizations demonstrate accountability. Continuous quality improvement is a cyclical process of assessing performance, making plans to improve, and reassessing results with a focus on aiming to achieve the best possible outcomes. Implementing CQI in an organization creates a culture where leadership and staff are constantly striving to improve the quality of services and outcomes for the youth and families they serve. CQI requires the engagement and support of staff on all levels for service delivery, data collection, data analysis, and data-driven decision-making. Organizations that commit to CQI acknowledge that it is not a finite process. Before embarking on CQI, it is important to understand that this may be a vast undertaking that requires significant changes for the organization. These changes will call for vision, leadership support, dedicated time, commitment, and innovative thinking. Implementing CQI is not a process with a beginning and an end, but rather a change in the way business is done. Many factors contribute to the effectiveness and sustainability of CQI implementation, one of which is the extent to which an organization is ready for such changes. Organizational readiness requires leadership to set the tone for implementing CQI and bring forth change in an organization. It's important to identify key staff with strong leadership skills to help support the initiative. It also requires vision. Without a broader knowledge of the benefits of CQI, the process may be perceived as a series of disjointed activities. In order to eliminate confusion and promote staff buy-in, it is essential for leaders to share the purpose of CQI efforts with all staff and explain how each piece contributes to the overall enhancement of their organization. A trusting environment is also important. Staff need to be willing to take risks, be innovative, and deal effectively with frustration and setbacks. It is imperative that staff feel supported by administrators and feel comfortable with the possibility of trying new approaches. CQI is an ongoing opportunity for innovation. Staff have limitless opportunities to be innovative with strategies to improve services and produce better youth outcomes. Organization leaders should draw on the expertise and experience of staff for ideas and suggestions when improvements are needed. Creating a culture that values quality improvement is paramount to the success of CQI. This culture can be brought about by demonstrating organizational commitment and devoting time and resources to the process. Implementing CQI does not happen overnight, nor is it simple. The process takes time and patience, but having a strong commitment to the process will provide the fortitude an organization needs to sustain CQI. While implementing a CQI process can be challenging, it's not impossible. The following 6 steps help juvenile justice organizations implement CQI to continually monitor youth outcomes, make data-driven decisions about service delivery, and ensure that the change is sustained. The framework consists of 6 steps: develop a quality improvement team, operationalize the intervention, develop service delivery and youth outcome objectives, collect quality data, utilize the data to identify improvement areas, and incorporate a review process to sustain CQI. Let's take a closer look at each step. Step 1 is to develop a quality improvement team. The team is the driving force behind engaging in and sustaining a quality improvement process. The team should be composed of a cross-representational sample of organizational administrators, direct service staff, and others who are familiar with the targeted intervention. To ensure that the workload is not placed on just a few shoulders, the ideal team should be comprised of 5 to 7 members. If the program is a collaborative effort, it's important to include representatives from the collaborating agencies to ensure that all involved parties share a common vision for implementing CQI. Administrative buy-in is also critical. Include at least one administrator on the CQI team. Their active participation will demonstrate the organization's commitment to quality improvement. Engage direct service staff as members of the CQI team. This will ensure that a variety of perspectives are present for the valuable discussions that will occur throughout the quality improvement process, as well as assist in cultivating the long-term sustainability of the process. Finally, be upfront and realistic about the amount of time, effort, and commitment each person will be expected to contribute as a member of the team. Implementing CQI is an ongoing process that will take continued innovation, work, and dedication. So each team member will need to be aware of the amount of time they need to commit. The first task of the team is to decide where to start. While learning the CQI process, it's best to focus on one intervention at a time. Starting with a specific focus helps the CQI team build a foundation of skills that you can expand the process to other areas of the organization. Once the team has identified the intervention to target and prior to collecting data, it's important to clearly define and operationalize the intervention. To help operationalize the intervention, the team should develop a logic model. A logic model, like the one shown here, is a diagram of the intervention that outlines the targeted population, what resources are being put into an intervention, and how the intervention is implemented, and what outcomes are expected. It will be used later in the CQI process when developing measurable service delivery and youth outcome objectives. The logic model presented here is a very simple version comprised of 3 areas: targeted population, services delivered, and expected youth outcomes. The first area, targeted population, describes who the intervention is targeting. In most cases, the youth who are intended to participate in the intervention. This area should identify characteristics that the targeted population has in common, such as age, gender, and risk factors. Once the team has described the targeted population, think about what changes in knowledge, attitudes, behaviors, and skills are anticipated based on participation in the intervention. Often the risk factors that the team identified in the description of the target population provide clues to the types of changes that can be expected. For example, if a primary risk factor targeted by the intervention is criminal thinking, an anticipated youth outcome would be decreasing criminal thinking among youth who successfully complete the intervention. To determine the anticipated outcomes, consider the following questions. What differences are expected as a result of the intervention? What will the youth learn as a result of the intervention? How will behavior change based on participation in the intervention? What are the ultimate goals of the intervention? Finally, determine how the intervention achieves the anticipated youth outcomes. The team should review the processes and activities that youth experience or participate in while involved in the intervention. Consider the following questions. Attend as part of the intervention. How do youth participate in these activities? Are there specific activities that the youth need to complete? Are there certain steps that youth must accomplish to meet the anticipated outcomes? The third step in CQI is to develop service delivery and youth outcome objectives. In order to determine how the intervention is currently working and where improvements can be made, data must be collected and reviewed. Developing objectives help to identify exactly what is important to measure. There are 2 types of objectives: service delivery objectives and youth outcome objectives. Both types of objectives have the same components: basic measure, direction of measure, object of measure, and expected value. However, they focus on 2 different aspects of the intervention. Service delivery objectives, sometimes referred to as process objectives, are statements about how services are intended to be delivered. They focus on the activities or processes that youth experience as part of the intervention. An example of a service delivery objective is 90% of youth will participate in at least 6 anger management sessions. Youth outcome objectives are statements about the expected impact of the services provided. They describe what is expected of youth who complete all or a component of the intervention. An example of a youth outcome objective is 90% of youth who successfully complete at least 6 sessions will increase their anger management skills. When writing an objective, start by identifying the basic measure. The basic measure refers specifically to what is to be measured. In the example, 90% of youth who successfully complete at least 6 sessions will increase their anger management skills. The basic measure is anger management skills. Look at the services delivered area of the logic model to derive the basic measures for service delivery objectives and the anticipated youth outcomes area to determine the basic measures for youth outcome objectives. Common basic measures for service delivery objectives are attendance at activities, participation in groups, and amount of service received. Common basic measures for youth outcome objectives are increase in knowledge, mastery of skills, changes in attitudes, or in behavior. After the basic measure has been identified for the objective, determine the direction the measure is anticipated to change. 3 common directions are meeting a benchmark, tolerating a specific level, and maintaining a specific level. An example of meeting a benchmark could be 90% of enrolled youth will attend school 80% of the time. Youth are expected to meet the benchmark of attending 80% of the time, no more and no less. Tolerating a specific amount could be 90% of enrolled youth will attend school at least 80% of the time. Youth who attend school 80% or more of the time would meet this objective. It is tolerating a level of 80% attendance. 90% of enrolled youth will continue to attend school 80% of the time. In this example, youth are already attending school 80% of the time and are expected to maintain that level of attendance. Next, identify the object of the measure. This is the person from whom or about whom the measure is taken. With rare exception, the object of measure will be the youth because they are the ones who are participating in services and the ones in which change is anticipated. In the above example, 90% of enrolled youth will attend school at least 80% of the time. The object of the measure is enrolled youth. It's important to be as specific as possible about the object of the measure to ensure data are collected from the correct group of youth. For example, if the basic measure of an objective is attendance in alcohol awareness group, and only youth who have been referred to substance abuse services will attend this group, it's important to specify that in the objective. 90% of youth who have been referred to substance abuse services will attend 80% of the alcohol awareness groups, rather than just 90% of youth will attend 80% of alcohol awareness groups. Finally, determine the expected value. The expected value is a benchmark for the level of performance that is accepted or desired. In the example, 90% of youth will increase their anger management skills. The expected value is 90%. It is expected that at least 90% of youth will achieve the intended outcome. After data are collected, actual performance will be compared to expected value in order to determine if objectives have been met. The expected value can be based on past performance data if it's available. If data are not available, the expected value can be an estimation of what is reasonably expected. The 4th step in implementing CQI is to collect quality data. Implementing a data collection process for measuring objectives requires careful planning. Because the data will be used for decision making, it's important that the data are an accurate reflection of the services delivered and outcomes generated under the current conditions. To ensure that the data are being collected are high quality, your team will need to develop a data collection plan, identify a mechanism to aggregate that data, and train staff on data collection procedures and conduct a data collection pilot. Let's take a closer look at developing a data collection plan. A data collection plan should be developed for each service delivery and youth outcome objective. There are 4 components to a data collection plan: definition of the basic measure, measurement method, persons responsible for collecting and entering the data, and a timeline of data collection and data entry. The first step in developing a data collection plan is to clearly define the basic measure of the objective. The team identified the basic measure using the logic model when they developed the objective. In the data collection plan, it is important to specifically define the basic measure to ensure that all staff have a common understanding of what the basic measure means. For example, if the basic measure of the objective is participation in group, participation may be defined as meeting a certain level of on a participation scale or solely attending a group and not disrupting activities. Likewise, if the basic measure is increased pro-social skills, it is important to decide if pro-social skills means positive communication or demonstration of anger management skills. It's entirely up to the team to decide what the basic measures mean to the intervention. After clearly defining the basic measure, decide how the information will be collected by identifying the measurement method. Think about where information can be found when planning to measure objectives. Common examples of measurement methods include intake paperwork, observation or activity logs, attendance and participation logs, formal reports from school or probation, pre and post tests, and standardized assessments. If the basic measure is to increase or decrease a skill or behavior, it's important to measure pre and post intervention. However, if the basic measure is to demonstrate a skill or behavior, it's only necessary to measure once at the end of the intervention. The third step in writing a data collection plan is to identify the persons responsible for collecting the information as well as entering the data into a spreadsheet or database. It may be the same person who both collects and enters the data, or one person may collect the information and give it to another to enter. Finally, the data collection plan should include a timeline of when data will be collected, as well as when it will be entered. Consider the basic measure and determine whether it is important to collect that information daily, weekly, monthly, or before and after the intervention. The timeline should take into consideration when information will need to be reported and any effective processes for data collection that are already in place. There are data collection plan templates in the appendix of the publication on the website. Once the data collection plan is complete, it's important to develop a method of aggregating the data. For quality improvement purposes, it is vital that the data collected are able to be aggregated or combined across youth to present a picture of the entire intervention. Therefore, it's important that there is a mechanism for aggregating the data. Usually this is a spreadsheet or database. A simple Excel spreadsheet can work just as well, as long as it contains all of the important pieces of data needed to determine actual performance on an objective. Next, it's important to properly train staff who are responsible for collecting data, administering assessments, and performing data entry to ensure that data collection plans are being followed, assessments are being administered correctly, and that the data are being entered in a uniform and timely manner. After these steps are completed, the data collection pilot can begin. The data collection pilot is an opportunity to practice collecting data according to the data collection plans and entering it into the aggregating mechanism. The pilot should last at least 30 days. At the conclusion of the pilot, the team should meet to discuss how data collection is proceeding and assess the quality of the data that has been collected. The team should review completed measurement methods to confirm that the staff responsible for data collection are following data collection plans correctly. The team should also ask staff for feedback on the data collection plans. Are they easily understood? Is it difficult to follow the plan in the course of day-to-day responsibility? Likewise, the team should review data that have been entered into the aggregating mechanism. It is reasonable to expect that there may need to be some improvements made to data collection plans and procedures following the data collection pilot. The pilot provides an opportunity to strengthen data collection, which leads to higher quality data to use for decision making. Once the data collection pilot is completed, the team is ready to start collecting data. Once the team feels confident in the quality of the data being collected, it is time to sit back and wait for the data to be collected. During this time, it is useful for the team to prepare for how they will eventually respond to the data by defining ranges for each objective. The ranges dictate how the team will respond to actual performance. Defining ranges prior to reviewing the data maintains objectivity and reduces the likelihood of jumping to conclusions when actual performance does not meet the expected value. Commonly applied ranges include excellent performance. This is usually performance at or above the expected value. Acceptable performance is usually performance just below the expected value, but but high enough that improvements may not be needed. Monitor closely. This performance is slightly below the acceptable level, and the team may choose to monitor the objective performance for a period of time to determine the direction of the trend. Needs improvement. This is performance in the range suggests that there is something in the way services are delivered that requires a change or improvement. As data are being collected and entered into the spreadsheet or database used for aggregation, the team should view the data often. Data on service delivery objectives can be viewed as often as monthly, while it might be more appropriate to review data on youth outcomes less often, for example, quarterly. It is recommended that the data are not used to make decisions until there are at least 30 records available to view. Viewing less than 30 records may not provide a full picture of what is happening in the intervention. The performance may be falsely low or inaccurately high. In addition, before using data to make decisions, the team should review measurement methods to make sure that they are completed properly and fully. Once there is confidence in the quality of the data and there are enough records to determine actual performance. The actual performance on objectives should be compared to the expected value in the service delivery and youth outcome objectives to determine if the objectives have been met. If they have been met, congratulations. The intervention is meeting expectations and no changes are necessary at this time. The team should continue to measure the objective to be sure that expectations continue to be met. On the other hand, if actual performance is below the expected value, the team must respond in accordance with the pre-established ranges. If actual performance falls within the predetermined needs improvement range, the team should attempt to explain the gap between the expected value and the actual performance. The team should brainstorm, eliciting feedback from direct service staff, participants, and stakeholders if necessary. It may be helpful to consider the following questions when looking to explain the gaps. Has the intended population to receive the intervention changed? Has there been a disruption in intervention services due to a major event? Do intervention services relate to the targeted population and outcomes? And have staff had enough training to deliver the intervention? Once the team has identified possible reasons that the expected value was not met, it is time to identify strategies to improve performance. If, for example, a potential reason for the gap between expected and actual performance was that brand new staff were facilitating the intervention, a strategy to resolve the issue may be to have a more experienced facilitator provide on-the-job training to newer staff in the implementation of the intervention. The team should then implement the identified strategy. While implementing the improvement strategy, the team should continue to follow data collection plans until enough records are collected to analyze. It may take more than one data collection cycle for improvements to be fully implemented and to see a change in youth outcomes. Quality improvement is not an exact science. A strategy may or may not have the expected influence on the data. In order to be able to determine if the strategy has made a difference, only use one strategy at a time. If the one strategy implemented does not seem to address the need and improve performance, the team should revisit other potential explanations and related strategies and try another. In summary, we've talked about how to develop your CQI team, operationalize the intervention, develop service delivery and youth outcome objectives, and how to collect and respond to data. These steps help build the foundation of CQI. In order to fully implement CQI, the team must successfully incorporate a review process that makes CQI more than just another thing to do. This will help develop an organizational culture that values and uses data to make decisions. A successfully incorporated review process means that the QI team is regularly meeting to review and respond to data. Information learned about the intervention from the data are shared routinely with staff and stakeholders, and decisions are informed by data. Successfully implementing a review process demonstrates that the organization is committed to continually improving services for the youth they serve. As I mentioned, this video is based off of NCJ-FCJ's Continuous Quality Improvement Guide for Juvenile Justice Organizations. It is available on the NCJJI website as well as ncjfcj.org. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My email address is there, or visit the NCJJI website for more information. Finally, I'd like to thank you all the juvenile justice organizations in Nevada for their hard work and dedication to the children and families they work with. Thank you.